People always talk about how easy it'll get and this too shall pass, but I'm here to tell you that it doesn't. It doesn't get any easier. I just want to say happy birthday to Brandy. I love you, baby. And I miss you.
Felicia is a loving mother who lost her treasured daughter Brandy suddenly. Ira Rounsaville, master's level social worker, joins us to discuss how to get closure if that's even possible.
Closure can be a moving target. You can believe that you're going to gain closure because you get a question answered, right? But then you get that question answered and it's like, wait, closure's over there. Like, nope, that wasn't it. I don't want to oversimplify or minimize it, but closure is really about an emotional choice. It's like if we're bartering, right? If I'm selling you an item, I'm selling you closure, and you put a price tag on it. You say, well, this closure is going to cost you $100. And I'm saying, would you take 80? You have to make the decision to understand whether 80 is enough of value for you to sell that closure. And for individuals, that's what closure looks like. Is this enough to satisfy my emotional well-being? Is this enough to give me comfort and peace that my mind isn't continually rerunning all of the things that I'm experiencing and dealing with? So it's a moving target and it's an emotional decision that you may not even know what it is until you encounter it. It's like asking somebody, what do you want out of life? And somebody says, well, I just want to be happy. And then my follow-up question to that is, well, what does that look like? Not everybody is able to say that. But when you say, I want closure, what you're in essence saying is, I desire peace. I desire an opportunity to disrupt this movie, this emotional loop that's playing in my heart and in my mind that would allow me to get to the next segment. You guys in the beginning of your podcast often talk about favorite movies. So I'm thinking about Groundhog's Day, right? So Groundhog's Day, if you're familiar with the movie, this day keeps repeating over and over and over again. And right when he was ready to give up because he was like, I'm just stuck in this life's loop, did it go to the next segment of life? And that's what closure looks like. And you don't know when it's going to come. And you're going to do all these things. You're going to try all these different things, the things that you think that will work. So like in the movie, the guy learned how to play the piano. He learned all these different things to try to get the girl to see if it was going to work. And all these things didn't work because you go for the things you believe are going to work until it actually get to your heart and your spirit and you kind of let go. And if I could preach part of that movie, I think he got to the point where he kind of let go and let God, where he was like, I don't know what else to do. Part of that emotional decision, depending on your faith walk, is getting to a point where you say, I don't know what else to do. And then closure comes to you versus you seeking it out. And so even Felicia and my charge to you to say, hey, let those unanswered questions lie dormant, is to take your hands off the wheel for a minute and say, can I allow closure to come to me? Because there's a possibility that while you're seeking it from that direction, that it's waiting for you somewhere else.
So Ira, I would never compare the situation I'm about to tell you to the loss of a child, but kind of hammering in that point of not having answers, it can hurt. I want to tell you about something that I recently experienced. I went to go try to schedule an appointment with my barber. Somebody who's kind of a friend. We've shared life stories. We've taken pictures together. And all the people in there kind of had a shocked, glazed look over their face when I came in. So I knew something was going on. And the owner told me that he's no longer with us. He was very vague and ambiguous. And I thought I was going to be okay with that, but I came home. And I'm really not much of a crier, but I started getting emotional because when I thought about what I saw and experienced, I said, he must have died. It bothered me so much that I went back to get another barber to cut my hair. And I'm like, okay, they're going to tell me something up in here. Because I was literally sitting in the chair getting emotional. If you just tell me what happened, I'll be in a much better shape. I told the barber, It was a lady who was cutting my hair. I was like, I really have to talk to the owner. And so I pulled him aside and he assured me that the individual was alive. Apparently, it was a legal case
Mhm.
where the arrest took place on the property. So that's why everybody looked kind of devastated there. But I was really kind of shocked at how I felt emotionally,
Mhm.
just not knowing.
Mhm.
So, you have any comments on that about just not having all the information, how that can be emotional for a person?
100%. So the thing is most of the things that we manage and we deal with is on a continuum, like decision making process. Me deciding what I'm gonna wear in the morning is the same decision making process that I use when deciding if I'm going to make a large purchase. The difference is it's just on a different continuum. Me deciding what I'm gonna wear in the morning isn't as critical of a decision as buying a house, but it's the same thought process, much like closure. You still need an emotional satisfaction to again get to that next thing. So whether it's knowing what happened to your barber or knowing what happened to your daughter who you've lost, it's the same continuum of understanding, or it's the same process of saying, how do I give peace to my heart and my soul? The difference is just the context and the situation, but it's the same continuum. So while I know you opened by saying I don't want to compare, but again, you're talking about the same continuum of an ideology of how do we get closure? We do it all the time. So oftentimes when I work with people, part of what I'm showing them is like, because sometimes we don't believe that we have it in us. We think, well, there's no way that I can move. I don't know how to move on from this. And part of what I have to show them is like, you do it all the time. It's just on a continuum that doesn't look as significant as this because it's not. Again, me deciding what I'm gonna wear in the morning versus making the decision to buy a car, same process. It's just different consequences and different impacts and opportunities. So it's still important to go through that process. You get to the point where you're like, maybe I won't be able to get all of my needs met or that closure over here, but this isn't where it's coming from. And you have to make a decision. How do I pursue it? Or do I take my hands off and allow it to come to me? Even if we talk about the stages of grief or we talk about acceptance, part of that acceptance can include I won't get all my answers. Part of that acceptance includes, well, I don't like the answers.
Mhm, mhm.
Part of that acceptance includes that I just got to go with what I have and figure out how to make this work so that I can get out of this life loop and get to the next stage of life and get to the next part of the story for me.
That makes sense.
Jamise, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How have you managed in this loss, and do you have any closure?
I feel like my closure and healing has kind of been put aside because of how desperately I want my sister to be healed. To be honest, I remember around the time this happened, everything was based on how Felicia was going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? And my Brandy was my niece. I was very close to her. We talked often, but I almost don't even feel right having pain because of how much pain I know my
Mhm.
sister has, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. It makes perfect sense, which is why I asked the question. We all grieve in different ways. I get the sacrifice you're making for your sister because you want something for her that you don't feel like you deserve to have. And you deserve to grieve too. You had an individual and your own separate relationship than she had. So you have to be okay with being present to your grief and not feeling like you're robbing your sister. Because the best person you can be for your sister is being fully present to all that you've gone through too. Does that make sense? Because in other words, you're trying to carry your sister somewhere when your arm is injured and probably broken, but you're ignoring and saying, nope, it's not. But yet you're still only supporting her with one arm. I would encourage you, as you support her, that you support yourself. and be present to your own process. Because part of this conversation too is what happens when I've been through it and how can I help somebody else? I'm going to tell you something personal, and it just dawned on me. Today is the 9th anniversary of my nephew being killed, which is also my son's 14th birthday, just the same. And when I got that call at 12:33 in the morning that it happened to him, my brain went, and my peace, my closure is, and it's been a multitude of things, right? But what I've rehearsed is what I was able to give to him in the time that he was here, because there was a rehearsal of what we didn't get a chance to do and what we weren't able to do and what I could have, should have, would have done. I guess in essence, what I did was I focused on what I had, meaning what did I do? What was I able to do? And more importantly, how do I live moving forward? And how do I live moving forward, honoring him and honoring what I was able to do for him? I recollect caring for him before I had my own kids. And I recollect what my wife and I poured into him. We tried to make the best life for him. And I tried to be the best uncle to him that I possibly can be. And so for my closure, my piece is I did the best that I had with the time I was given. The time taken away, none of us can do anything about it. And so then you rehearse what you have. I wish we could have done something different. There's a whole bunch of decisions I wish I would have made prior to that moment or prior to that day. But my closure has come because I know that I did the best I could do and what I thought I was supposed to do while he was here. What you have are positive memories. I'm not necessarily talking to you. I'm talking to anybody who's listening right now. Even if you had any level of tension with your loved ones, just honor the things that you have. Don't meditate and don't keep rehearsing all the bad. There is some good. And even if you didn't get an opportunity to say, I'm sorry, opportunity to say goodbye, again, go back and honor what you have.
I'm wondering how people can navigate days. What I mean by that is, okay, so today's your son's birthday, yet it's the anniversary of when your nephew passed. I'm thinking of someone who let me know how their birthday is on 9/11. Sometimes people really struggle with Mother's Day or Father's Day, losing people that they love. How can people navigate those days, those overlaps, while still trying to have joy when there's so much grief and sadness?
I'm going to answer that question directly in a second, but I'm going to tell you a way that I live. I love celebrating other people's birthdays. I love celebrating my birthday, but I don't put stock in that day. I value every day that I have, every breath of life I have, because today may be the most amazing day I have this year. My birthday is January 27th. And so sometimes what happens is we put so much stock in one day, but we can't control days. We don't know what we're going to get. For me, I'm not going to put all this stock in one day and just anticipate and look forward to this one day, because that day can fail me. And then I won't have the closure, again, that emotional validation for that day. So then why not then appreciate September 14th? Because, man, this day felt like my birthday. This is how I want my birthday to feel, right? But I got this day. So again, acknowledging what you have. I got this day, and this day was amazing. I can tell you, there have been some days in my life that are so memorable that were not my birthday, but I'll never forget those days. And so when you talk about managing the day, you got to manage the day. You take it one day at a time. That may sound like a cliche, but it is, you take what you get. And just like Felicia said, she's not memorializing the day of her daughter's death, but she's choosing to acknowledge the date of her birth, right? And again, it may not be her birthday. And there may be a day you just want to celebrate your daughter and remember her, and that's all right. So here's how I'll answer that question directly. Be present to the day and do the things that you feel like you need to do in the day. If you need to cry that day, cry. If you need to celebrate that day, celebrate. If you need to shut down and just be to yourself, then do that. Acknowledge what you have. What I have is I'm feeling emotional. What I have is I'm feeling joy. What I have is I'm feeling peace. What I have is I feel like damn, why did that happen to me? And then you process it, you deal with it, you embrace it, you lean into it and allow it to run its course. And then you wait for tomorrow. So that's how you deal with the day, is being present to it. There are people who experience grief, and one thing I prescribe is scheduling time to cry. And sometimes people look at me strange, and you might even think it's strange. And so if right now, if I feel emotional and I'm like, well, I can't cry because I'm on this call and I'm doing this video, and I know, okay, cool. But if I know at 3 o'clock later today I've already scheduled time to cry, internally my brain already knows, like, I can keep it together because I got time. Like, that time is coming. It's like when you're at work and you know you got vacation coming. You may, like, if you didn't know vacation was coming, you probably bounce. You just mess around or whatever, like, because I don't want to be here. But again, knowing that you have something to look forward to. And when grief, see, the tricky thing with grief is nobody wants to look forward to feeling like crap. Nobody wants to look forward to heartache. But guess what? It's happening anyway. So why not lean into it? Heartache is going to come on my terms or not. So let me take control of it, put it on my terms. So at 3 o'clock, from 3 o'clock to 4, I'm going to get me a bath towel, and I'm going to sit in my room and I'm going to go for it. And I'm just going to cry as much as I need to, because tissue not going to work with all these tears that's coming. Right. And so I got my bath towel and I'm wiping my face, and I'm being present to my broken heart. And you do that as often as you need to, but schedule it, be intentional about it. And here's the other thing, here's the beauty of it. When 3 o'clock comes, your heart may say, we're good, that I don't need it. But keep it on the schedule, keep it on the calendar, just in case. It's almost like if you say, I'm gonna eat dinner at 6 o'clock every day. Well, depending on how your day went, and depending on what you were eating throughout the day, 6 o'clock come, you may not be hungry. And so it's the same idea and the same concept of how we support ourselves in our grief and how we support ourselves in our emotionality. And it's that same continuum of ideology, even when it comes to putting stock in a day of celebration. So whether it's your wedding day, whether it's your birthday, whether it's an anniversary, you want that day to be so special, but there are things that are out of your control. But if you acknowledge what you have, so if the people don't show up on time, or if the cake didn't turn out great, or the decorations weren't perfect, well, I still have today. I still have the person that I'm vowing my life to. I have an opportunity to do it tomorrow. I have the opportunity to try it again. I have the opportunity to experience peace, to have closure. So even if you have unanswered questions, you have people around you who love you and support you, you have memories, you have the opportunity to be present to your truth and say, today I feel good. Today was a good day. And that's the other thing too. Assess the days. Don't ignore your days. Like by the end of your day, debrief and say, hey, what was today like? How did we do? Because if it was great, ask yourself, well, what did I like? I like this. And then you can check in and say, wait, is this closure? Do I have it? So you can do a self-assessment and say, well, what did I do different today? And was it because you had 800 things to do and you didn't have time to think about your loss? Or were you pouring into yourself? And were you being present to what you have? And that's what made the day good. And you say, okay, let's do that again tomorrow. Let's try. Let's hope for it. Let's anticipate it. And maybe tomorrow will be better. And if it's not, that's okay. But we'll just check in and say, well, what do we do the next day? So from day to day, be present, but also do an assessment and debrief with yourself to say, okay, where am I? Check in. And that's another mistake during grief. We don't do enough of that. We don't check in with ourselves. We acknowledge that I'm hurt. We acknowledge that I don't have closure, but we don't check in to say, but how have I been successful? Or what have I done, or what haven't I done? And what can I do?
Sister, can you give us a favorite memory you have of Brandy?
Well, there's so many favorite memories I have of Brandy. Unfortunately, there are so many mother-daughter relationships that don't have a bond. if there's anyone out there, any mothers out there, and they still have their daughters with them, you all make a conscious decision and effort to love on one another and to establish a bond, because it's going to be so important for reasons that are even unforeseen. So it's important that you do that. Do not take each other for granted. Love on each other, make it a conscious decision and effort to do it. It's the little things that matter. They will count. They're going to be so powerful for you. And I love, love, love the fact that my daughter and I had a bond, and that can never be taken away from us. I cherish that more than anything else. As far as memories, we make those every day. The simplest things, just from conversating or making time to spend time with one another. All those things are important. I have a host of fond memories of Brandy, and too many to be named, but I have a lot. She and I were close. I would go back home. One of the ones that I'm fond of, and I captured it on video, for example, it was an event that's held at the Tower Grove Park back home in Missouri. I was always trying to get her to go to things with me. And she'd be like, oh, so, she'd be like, she did not want to hang out, but she would. And I always made it a big deal. There's one, and I can go back and I play the video over and over and over again, where she and I went, and she loved to sing. Of course, I'm biased, and I thought she had a beautiful voice, but she loved to sing, and I would tease her, and I would sing songs. She was the singer, I wasn't. So when I would sing, she'd look at me like, "Oh, really?" And so there is a video that we captured of one of the last events we went to together at that particular park and that event. And she and I are seen on the video, and I'm teasing her, and so we're interacting and engaging, and I will always have that. I was always making her laugh, and I was always doing something to catch her off guard and make her laugh. Those are my fond memories, and I still have those captured on videos. And I can honestly say that I can play those now at this point in time and just laugh as well, and enjoy them. So
I appreciate you sharing that you had to get to the point where you could actually watch the video, because that again, remember how I said earlier, sometimes we look for closure somewhere else, and then we'll find it in a different path that we were just unsuspecting. And even while you thought a year ago you probably couldn't watch that video, that a year ago that video still could have brought you the same peace that you are now able to experience. But whatever timing got you to the point where it's like, okay, it works now. And so I would encourage other people, try it all. And the beauty of today is we have technology that we don't just have to have a memory here, but we can have a memory here, and others can experience it too. I actually had the privilege and honor some years ago. I had an opportunity to interview a woman who was terminally ill. And one of the things that she wanted to do before she passed away was actually leave a message for her family. And it was the most humbling and most honoring thing that I've ever done in my life, to just sit with her and ask her questions, and she tell her story, so that for years to come, generations past her would see her face, hear her voice, and know her story. The beauty of being able to capture memories on film and on video serves more than just one purpose, but it can bring healing and closure and allow our loved ones to live in perpetuity for our existence and for those that will come after us. I encourage anyone, if you have, and even now, just create memories. And if you have those videos, if you have those pictures, like, rehearse them. Work with what you got. That's going to be my central theme of today. Work with what you have.
Felicia, I want to thank you for sharing your story. I'm believing that this is going to be healing for a lot of people. And you even just reminded me with what you shared about the importance of loving people when they're there, because tomorrow isn't promised. So many are guilty of separating themselves over things that in the grand scheme of things could be looked at as petty. Thank you for sharing. We'll keep you in our prayers during your healing process.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Tyra.
Oh, my pleasure.
Love you, Brandy. Happy birthday, Brandy.
I signed up for.
She's so good.
Yeah, she was hoping.
Okay, you did it. I know.